What's up, everybody? This is Robert Ferguson, your nutritionist, a guy who shares because he cares. And today, I will be joined by nutrition, health, and weight loss coach Lisa Marie. And we're going to actually kind of do a review on a very popular Netflix series called You Are What You Eat. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but if you have, please let me know. If you watch this documentary, it's a series on Netflix, and it's titled You Are What You Eat. And, well, we're going to get into it pretty deep. Now, before we get there, if you are not part of the Gut Health Challenge, I want to invite you to come learn about it. We are like in the midst of it. We have started. You can start whenever it works best for you. Your start day can be whatever day is best. Tomorrow, we're on day 3. And tomorrow, let me tell you, man, for day 3, we're going to be talking about something that I think a lot of people would want to know about. And that's bloating. If you ever experience feelings of bloating, gas, belching, GERD, acid reflux, heartburn. If you would like to reduce the symptoms that you experience with bloating, gas, belching, GERD, acid reflux, heartburn, you don't want to, join the challenge. If you only do the Gut Health Challenge for that reason, this is the quality of your life. And you got to keep in mind, because I've been around people who are belching all the time, and they got gas and they feel bloated and they're dealing with heartburn and GERD and acid. I'm around, I've seen people like that. And it becomes a little annoying. And this is not a dig on anybody, but it can be annoying to the people who are around you. So why not learn how you can actually remove those symptoms? Learn how you can use food to improve that part of who you are in your health. So anyway, I'm just saying, if you're going to do the Gut Health Challenge for anything, if you are experiencing those kind of symptoms, if you guys know anyone who is experiencing those symptoms, instead of getting on some other new medications that may give you temporary relief, tell them, encourage them, let them know about the Gut Health Challenge. Because if you want to reduce those symptoms, there's 5 things we're touching on day 3. And anyone who has those kind of symptoms, I don't even know what else to say. I feel for you guys. I feel for you. I did a seminar earlier today where I talked to a group of people, and they just fell in love with it. And because of that, they all joined the Gut Health Challenge. Aside from that, you will be seeing my partner in crime, Lisa Marie, aka Hammer Girl. Her information is there below. Then you have information where you can contact me, and you can reach out. We are here to help you however we can best help you. Okay. So without further delay, because this review is going to be very interesting, let me bring on board the one and only Lisa Marie.
Hey, Robert. Hi, everyone.
All right. So Lisa's out and about, you guys. So I just want to let you guys know that if there's moments where Lisa kind of fades and you don't hear from her for a second, she's driving, but she's committed, and that's why she's here. So thank you for being here, Lisa.
Thank you for having me again.
All right. Well, of course. We're rocking and rolling. And then after we're done with this conversation, hopefully you'll be home by then, and then we will go to Telegram and we'll talk some major shit. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's going to be a good one.
Always look forward for an opportunity to curse. Okay. Anyway, I don't know if you heard my little intro, but I was sharing with people that are in the Gut Health Challenge. Tomorrow, I'm really excited about it because I'm going to share 5 things that people can do who are experiencing bloating, gas, belching, GERD, acid reflux, and heartburn.
It's going to be good.
Do you know anyone who has those symptoms?
I do. I got to invite them over. I've been inviting people.
I'm telling you, tomorrow, I am going to share with them on day 3 of the Gut Health Challenge. They will know exactly what they can do, what's in their power to actually deal with the unwanted symptoms that come with bloating, gas, belching, GERD, acid reflux, and heartburn. And you know what's interesting about this, Lisa?
What?
You can't just find this information anywhere. Like
Yeah.
doctors they're not giving people solutions for their situation. They just say,
Mm.
well, just eat healthier, exercise more, maybe there's some meds here and there, but
Mm-hmm.
we're going to actually give them clear, unadulterated advice on what they can 100% do to get relief.
Awesome.
I mean, I don't know about you, but if I was dating someone, right, which I'm not dating, I'm as single as they come, people. Okay. And being as single as they come, if I was dating someone, and let's say I'm dating this lady and she belches and I get it. I mean, there's actually a condition. And if you love someone and like someone, you can, hey, I get it. I would be a good partner and I could deal with it. However, when you know that there's something they can do about it, and the constant belching could be solved if the person I'm dating had no interest in that, I'd be like, they just settled for they don't even want to be better.
Right.
I mean, if you were dating a guy, Lisa, that was farting constantly, right? You sit down to watch a movie and he's passing gas.
Yeah.
Then
If I had,
he goes to get you you want to, maybe you having a cocktail and you say, yeah, I'll have another glass of wine. And as soon as he stands up, he farts again. Is that attractive?
No. What is that? What you're breaking up a little bit for me?
Okay. Hey, I'm just saying. Some people probably think it's cute.
No, not me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, not me
And
either.
if I had the solution, I would be I'd be changing his diet or whatever your solution is, giving that a
absolutely.
try.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right? It's kind of like imagine you're some people will get this, right? You wake up in the morning and you don't feel as bloated.
Mm-hmm.
But then around 5 o'clock or right before dinner, you're like, man, I feel bloated.
Yeah.
I'm going to explain on day 3 of the gut health challenge how that happens. Who wouldn't want to know this?
Yeah, I want to know. I want to know it. I'm looking forward to listening to this tomorrow.
I mean, I'm pumped about it. And I'm not dating anyone who has it, but I have clients, and it is a situation that people are dealing with. Unbelievable. Well, anyway, you guys heard us. I have solutions for you when it comes to this. And if you know anyone, like if you don't care about yourself and you're okay with just passing gas around your partner and all the people that you're hanging out with, and you don't mind feeling bloated, hey, then I'm not talking to you. But maybe you know someone who actually, if they could improve their situation, they would actually take it up. They would actually want to know. So don't block other people from not being bloated and not walking around with flatulence constantly. Just keeping it real.
Always keeping it real.
I mean, I don't know, man. I'm telling you, like if I was sitting down and watching a movie, and if I was dating someone, right, and hey, let's watch this movie, and I hit the movie where like at my house, and having a Netflix moment, everything's going great, and right before the movie kind of starts, there's a silent moment, right? And they just happen to pass gas. I don't think that's going to help the whole rest of the movie. No. Well, I mean, it ain't going to help it.
No.
I'm not saying it's taken away from it. But, if it happens again, then I think it starts to kind of mess up the whole evening. And, and maybe that could just be me. But it's kind of like my daughter, and we'll get to it, you guys. But my daughter, and one of the things I'll talk about is how swallowing air can play a huge role in why you belch or may have, this gas, right? It's not like a nasty thing. It's just if you're swallowing air. So my daughter likes to chew gum. just like my mom. I mean, it's amazing. You know what I mean? Like when you see things with your kids that you see like in your parents, you go, how did that happen? Like
Yeah.
that's just the way it is. But my daughter would chew gum and then she would belch often. And I was explaining to her, like, sweetheart, you swallow air when you're chewing gum, and that's why you're belching. So then when she doesn't chew gum, she doesn't have those belching moments. But then when she like when I make them smoothies, she likes to drink her, I give them their smoothie in like a mason jar, and I have a straw in it. And I know that when you're using a straw, you're inhaling a lot of air. So then she'll have belching moments. And it's nice to know when you do certain things that you know what the consequence is.
Right.
So then she's like, well, I don't want to use a straw because I don't want to be belching for the next hour. Okay. And then when she drinks it straight without a straw, she doesn't have the belching moments. I mean, I don't know if the average person knows this, but to me, that was insightful. But anyway. Okay, let's get to it. There's a documentary on Netflix that is getting a lot of attention, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
And the title of it is You Are What You Eat. So I'm going to play the trailer. And then if you want, you can, start driving. So the trailer's about 2 minutes long, you guys. And then I found, like, cause I was putting together like all the papers and the science. And then 2 days ago, I came across this guy. I've never seen him before on YouTube. And he did a really good job. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to acknowledge this guy because he did a really good job on his investigative skills. And I feel like we'll watch it with everyone else and then we'll comment on it. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
And then when we're done with that, you guys will go to Telegram and just have an open conversation. But I want Lisa to, like, she's been out and about and she needs to get home. So I want her to start driving. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and play the trailer, and then I'll set it up and we'll bring on this gentleman who has done a really good job at explaining the pros and cons of this documentary. Now, did you watch the documentary, Lisa?
Hold on, I'll get there eventually. Yeah, I did. I watched part of the documentary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty biased, so we'll cover all of that along the way. Okay, you guys? So I'm going to go ahead and play the trailer of the movie if you haven't watched it already. And if you are planning on watching it, I'm just going to, let me just put up front, we're going to talk about it, so I don't want to mess it up for you. So you may want to go watch it and then come back and watch our commentary on it. Or just be bold and brave enough to watch our commentary and then go watch and see for yourself. I think that makes sense. So here we go, you guys. Without further delay, let's watch the trailer of the documentary series, and then we're going to do a review and walk you through it step by step because there's a lot of propaganda around this. And I want you to be informed so that you are not taken advantage of, because there's a lot of misinformation in this. Okay, so let's check it out.
Everybody knows the average American diet is not very healthy. We sometimes call it SAD for sad.
People don't realize that what we put in our mouths is more important than anything else.
Your dietary pattern can change your biology in a profound way.
It's a game changer.
I've tested many diets over the years looking for the healthiest ones. A major challenge in nutrition studies is everyone is unique and responds differently to the same food. So what if we got people who are genetically the same?
Just like us.
Twins share the same DNA, so we get to see if it's about your greens, not your genes.
For the next 8 weeks, we'll be investigating the pros and cons of a healthy diet that contains meat and dairy versus a plant-based diet.
All right, the diet assignment reveal.
I could taste the kale now.
How will different diets affect your body fat and lean mass?
I'm very excited to see my body transform. My blood pressure has been sometimes dangerously high.
We're at a critical point. So many people are dying from diet-related diseases. The quality of our food, it's changing in front of us rapidly.
We're as sure processed meat causes cancer as we are that cigarette smoke causes cancer and plutonium causes cancer.
You can't trust these labels. If they got about this much room, then that's free range.
Every time you eat a steak, a little puff of smoke goes up in the Amazon.
Many of the same things that promote human health are also good for the environment.
If you ask any human being, do you want to save the planet or destroy the planet? I mean, come on, it's a no-brainer, right?
Look at you all.
I can see some differences just by looking at you.
We actually saw profound changes based on what diet they were eating.
Those lines look very different, don't they?
That's a huge difference.
In just 8 weeks.
It shocked me.
We can solve a lot of the issues that are hurting us by just rethinking what's at the end of our fork.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. That's the documentary. So I'm gonna bring Lisa back on if she can hear me. I don't know if she's driving, but if she is, that's just fine.
I can hear you.
Okay, so are you en route?
I am.
All right, well, we're gonna keep your attention. So that's the documentary, you guys. And the documentary, I'm gonna give my opinion up front. And I know you haven't watched the entire series, Lisa, so you can share what you want or maybe share nothing about it. But as soon as I saw the trailer, and I knew about this about 6 months ago, I knew it was coming out. I'm a fan of the nutrition scientist who's put this whole thing together. I think he's very sharp, very knowledgeable. But then there's a doctor on there who made a comment, and both of these guys I know are vegan. So when I first saw it, I was like, okay, can these guys be honest and not biased? And then when I watched the whole thing, which we're going to walk you guys through, it's a push to get people to become vegan. So they were very biased. There's a lot of lies. They avoided sharing certain things. I mean, it's really sad. And I've already heard, like I talked to a lady earlier today who was telling me how these doctors that she's aware of, they have this group, and there's another group that she was telling me about where these people who have gone through bariatric surgery or they're thinking about it, they all get together. And all of these people, these doctors and these bariatric people were like, this series was awesome. And that they need to make some changes in their lifestyle and they're all going to stop eating meat and become vegan. And I was wow.
I think the trailer itself tells me, I did watch a good majority of the documentary, but you can see the bias in the trailer itself. Like you could see at least I could see the agenda already in that trailer when they're talking about the planet and the earth and the chemicals, right? The chemicals in the processed food, the chemicals in the meats, the this and that. But what about the glyphosate sprayed all over the vegetables? You know, like that's what I think. Like that's where I see. I'm like, okay, but like let's be fair. Like what? Because even in that alone, that's misinformation to me.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And like when they talk about climate change, I giggled and then I got upset because I interviewed Dr. Judith Curry. And Dr. Judith Curry, you're going to love this interview. I haven't shared it yet, but she is a guru when it comes to climate change and everything that ties into that. And she would giggle at this movie because it's outrageous and it's ridiculous. And all the people who are out there preaching about climate change as it pertains to our food, they have no idea. And trust me, if you look up Judith Curry, you'll see that in 2010, 2011, she was celebrated by like anyone who was into climate change. They thought she was the guru. She was the queen. And then she was challenged with her data. And she came back and said, I made a mistake. And once she said that the climate change wasn't being impacted the way these people are claiming, they cut her off. You don't see her on TV anymore. She's not interviewed anymore. They just don't like her because they're trying to promote a certain narrative, a certain truth that is not the truth. Anyway, let's get into it, man. This is going to be good. So what I'm going to do, you guys, I'm going to play a little bit of this guy. He did a really good job, and then I'll pause it, and then we'll comment on it. But just listen to what he's saying, because he does I mean, I could just play it, and we could just watch the whole thing, but I'll pause it when it makes sense, okay? So he's already in it, and he's setting it up where he's going to begin the conversation. So listen in. He's making his review of the documentary series. Okay, so let's check it out.
And earlier this month, Stanford University professor Christopher Gardner published his results of this 8-week randomized controlled trial on identical twins, showing that, quote, a healthy vegan diet led to improved cardiometabolic outcomes compared with a healthy omnivorous diet. Now, this is a randomized controlled trial. Randomized controlled trial can show cause and effect. This is different than observational or epidemiology-based studies. Randomized controlled trials eliminate essentially all variables but one. And then when there's an outcome, you can show that this one variable caused that, okay? And so that's why these are the gold standard of studies. And this was done on identical twins because they share the same genome. And if you give one diet, an omnivorous diet to one twin, and then you give a vegan diet to the other twin, that's like as gold standard as it gets. Now, Christopher Gardner also holds a few high-ranking positions here in the United States. Now, the first one being he is a director of the Stanford Plant-Based Diet Initiative, which is the PBDI, which was just launched a couple years ago in 2021. We're going to come back to that in 1 second. Now, he also sits on the U.S. Dietary Guidelines for Americans, which is the nutrition committee that is responsible for creating school lunches, prison nutrition guidelines, and things like that. He also holds a pretty unique position within that committee to lower or raise the saturated fat content. But not only that, he is also on the nutrition committee for the American Heart Association. So he holds a lot of high-ranking positions that can influence an entire culture on what they can and can't eat. Not to mention, he just released this study, and he's coming out with a documentary, You Are What You Eat, on January 1st. Now, like I just mentioned, he is the director of the Stanford Plant-Based Diet Initiative, the PBDI. This was launched in 2021 with a 5-year grant by Beyond Meat.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Okay. So what he's about to share with you guys is that Beyond Meat, like Beyond Burger, they are one of the sponsors behind this documentary. So that alone tells you there's a conflict of interest. He's a vegan. That's a conflict of interest. And think about it. He's on the board of like American Heart Association and the U.S. Dietary Guidelines. And when people look at what the government recommends, or like if you go to the hospital and the food that they serve you and you're like, man, this is crazy. This is refined. This is high in sugar. If you go to prison, man, this is refined. This is high in sugar. If you go to college and you're eating at in the cafeteria, this is high in sugar. This is refined. Everything where there's like institutionalized food, schools, hospitals, assisted living, he's one of the people behind that, and that's why the food is so horrible. And they're going to push plant-based foods, which now Beyond Meat is part of that. So I don't know if you can hear me on this, Lisa, but already we're looking at a situation where this guy is not even, it is paid for by companies that don't want you to eat meat. Okay. I'm going to keep it going.
This is an ultra-processed food meat replacement company. So just take that in and let that sit there. Put that in your back pocket. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. Now, the funding of the actual study itself, where did that come from? Because when we look at studies and we want to look at these objectively and unbiasedly, we have to look at who funded the study. Well, this particular study was funded by Kyle Vogt, and he is a member of the quote-unquote vegan mafia. So what is that? He is a part of a group of Silicon Valley investors who have historically invested in vegan-focused companies. Not only did he fund this study, but he also spent more than $1 million funding the Netflix vegan documentary, The Game Changers.
I have to say something. Okay, look. Game Changers. I saw people watch Game Changers on Netflix and they're like, I'm never eating meat again. I'm going to become a vegan. I'm going to become a vegetarian. The same people are behind this craziness. It's propaganda. They're wanting you to believe something that's not 100% true. So stay with me. It's to your benefit to have the awareness and the knowledge of what we're covering. Okay. And this gentleman's doing a great job. I mean, props. Okay. Let's keep it moving.
So right there, we got a couple red flags. We got to take a step back and just put that in our back pocket and just sit on that for a second. Now, the more you look into this, it doesn't take long. You can watch the trailer of You Are What You Eat, a twin experiment, and it says from the producers of The Game Changers. Because as I mentioned earlier, Cal Vogt has donated to many vegan films over the past several years, one of them being The Game Changers back in 2019. But he also gave a considerable donation of $600,000 to the Game Changers production company, Oceanic Preservation Society, or OPS. Now, they're on a mission to create media for environmental advocacy, like animal rights and stuff like that. Well, the OPS is also the same company that filmed this Stanford twin study. So they produced both The Game Changers and this study. And he's also donated to both of those. Now, taking this background information into consideration, these conflicts of interest weren't disclosed in the study itself. This should make anyone just take a step back and just look at this a little differently and ask the question, was there an ulterior motive at play here? And what you're about to find out when we look at this science is that some things were measured and some things weren't. Some things were deliberately left out of the study, and it makes you just question things a little bit more. Because now we're about to jump into the science, and you're about to see that some things were measured and some things were deliberately left out of the study because they didn't fit the narrative, which is a telltale sign of cherry picking. And this is what we want to avoid. So without further hesitation, let's jump into this study.
Okay, you guys, just so you know, so cherry picking is when they pick and choose what they want to highlight and make available and talk about. And they will keep everything else hidden from you. And I already know, because I read the complete study, I know exactly what they 100% left out. And there's a lot of pushback right now because of social media. And thank goodness for social media and people like myself and you guys, we want to know the truth. So we're going to start digging. And like this gentleman right here, people started digging. And it's all being exposed. So in the next 15 minutes, you're going to know why this series is a joke. I mean, Netflix should remove this series. It should be taken off. And any of you people out there who didn't do your homework and you've been telling people to watch this because you want them to be a vegan or you're trying to push people to quit eating meat, shame on you. Seriously. Because you're part of the lie. You're part of the lie. So let's keep it real and let's keep it true. Okay, let's get into it.
Now, this randomized controlled trial, this lasted for 8 weeks, like I mentioned. This included 22 pairs of identical twins. So 44, you can do the math. 22 pairs of identical twins. They were either randomized to eat either healthy vegan diet or a healthy omnivore diet. And this is one twin per diet. Meals were provided for the first 4 weeks of the study. The participants were then asked to provide their own meals for the last 4 weeks. Now, in order to determine which diet was healthier, the researchers needed to test their lipid levels, their cholesterol, their LDL, their HDL, their fasting insulin, all those sort of metrics. And at the beginning of the study, this is important, at the beginning of the study, LDL-C was named as the study's primary outcome measure. Okay, so this is what they were testing for. And this was the sole variable upon which that they determined their conclusion that a vegan diet was healthier than an omnivorous diet. Because when they examined the levels of the vegans versus the omnivorous participants, LDL-C was indeed lower, 13.9 milligrams per deciliter on average lower in the vegans compared to the omnivorous group. But this shouldn't be surprising because all plant-based diets do indeed lower LDL-C in humans because some of the plant sterols within the plant compounds replace some of that cholesterol in the body. Now, this is a super important thing to take away. They also tested HDL and triglycerides among a few other variables. HDL was lower in the vegans compared to the omnivorous diet, and triglycerides was higher in the vegans compared to the omnivorous diet. Any diet that lowers HDL and increases triglycerides is not a healthy diet.
Oh, I had to stop. This is where my heart rate starts to go up. Lisa, my heart rate starts to go up. They did not share this part of the study. Your HDL cholesterol is very important, everybody. And if it goes down, that's not good. Your triglycerides are very important. If that goes up, that's not good. So they chose, when I go back to cherry picking, to not highlight this. So you won't even see this inside of the documentary series because it's not favorable. Their focus was on LDL-C, which is part of what doctors have been indoctrinized for. And we can argue that. They just wanted to prove that the LDL, because the majority of the world believes that LDL is a bigger predictor of heart attack and stroke. And we can argue that. But they didn't even have the transparency to acknowledge what they discovered, and that is the people who went vegan, their triglycerides went up, which is not good. And their HDL went down, which is not good. What do you call that if a documentary series does not highlight that? Because it wouldn't make them look good. People, please get this stuff. Like, if you're not informed and you watch that documentary series and you didn't hear what we're sharing and you don't have the understanding, you are gullible. You're vulnerable. It's unbelievable. I mean, it blows my mind that this documentary series is on Netflix, and so many people who don't have access to what we're talking about will draw a conclusion based on this series. That's why we call it propaganda. Oh, Lord help us.
Now, eating that omnivorous diet, that healthy omnivorous diet, void of ultra-processed foods, this increased HDL and this lowered triglycerides, but it didn't lower LDL the same as vegans. Now, if you just look at the LDL, mainstream would tell you that the vegan diet was healthier, but it's not taking into account all the other variables. And this is what matters most. Now, what was also mentioned in this study is that the vegans also had a better fasting insulin in spite of consuming more carbohydrates, which is a little interesting, but they also lost 4.2 more pounds on average than the omnivorous counterparts. And so this was part of the conclusion that a vegan diet is healthier. They lost more weight. Their LDL went down. Their fasting insulin went down. So overall, that should be healthier than the omnivorous diet. But there's some caveats to this. Now, they lost more weight because the vegan diet, they just ate less calories than the omnivorous diet. They ate 200 less calories, almost 200 less calories on average per day. Now, one thing that was not assessed was muscle mass. Did the vegan group lose muscle mass? Because if they lost weight, was that fat? Was that water?
Let me stop right here. Listen to me, you guys, and I apologize for interrupting, but I want you to get this. In the documentary, they spoke a little bit about body composition, like skeletal muscle and all that, but they didn't highlight the real outcomes. I read the complete study, and in the complete study, they did not measure, whereas they come across on the documentary series that they did not in the study, this was caught afterward, measure the type of weight people lost. If you lose skeletal muscle, you've become unhealthy. If you've gained skeletal muscle, you've become healthy. You guys follow me? And to me, this right here, like, I want to draft a letter and send it to Netflix and say, you need to remove this documentary. It's an injustice. It is a total, complete lie. What is in the video series for the documentary series is not what is shared in the real study. I mean, and I like this head nutrition guy. I really do. I like him. I like the way he teaches. He's really smart. But the problem is that he's biased. And when you're biased and you do a documentary series like this, well, that's why we're having a conversation about it.
That muscle mass, because any diet that causes you to lose muscle mass, just for the sake of losing weight, we don't want to lose weight and muscle mass. We want to lose body fat if we have fat to lose. If they lost muscle mass, which we don't know because they didn't test for it, that is not a healthy diet, because muscle mass is a direct sign of longevity, just like HDL. Any diet that causes your HDL to go down, your triglycerides to go up, and you to lose muscle mass, which we don't know, guarantee that they probably did lose a little bit of muscle mass because they probably weren't eating bioavailable forms of protein. Because animal foods, meats, dairy and eggs are high in bioavailable protein. You can look at what proteins are most bioavailable, which means most absorbable in the human body. This is the DIAZ score, the digestible indispensable amino acid score. And across the board, eggs, meats, dairy, they're all more absorbable, and your body can use more of that protein than you can from, say, peas and soy and grains and other plant-based sources of protein. They're just not as digestible. You don't absorb that protein. That's why across the board, usually most vegans, vegetarians, plant-based individuals just don't have a ton of muscle mass like a meat omnivorous diet, a meat eater would. And so we don't know if they lost muscle mass. That was not assessed. So we don't want them to lose muscle mass in this 8-week trial. We want HDL to go up, and we want triglycerides to go down. Now, all they did was look at fasting insulin. They lost more weight, which was that muscle, we don't know, and they looked at LDL. Now, another reason that the vegan group might have eaten less is that on their subjective reports that they had to track down, they had to write how they were feeling and what they thought and things like that for 8 weeks, they reported less diet satisfaction. The omnivorous group liked their diet more. They said they enjoyed their diet more, whereas the vegans didn't enjoy their diet as much. Now, that could be a reason why they ate less and they lost more weight, and some of their metrics did improve. Now, that's also a red flag. If you're not enjoying your diet, then that's a sign that that probably isn't the diet for you, or the diet that's going to get you results long-term. That's not a healthy diet for you long-term. Now, here's one of the biggest red flags of this entire study. I just mentioned that they tested for fasting insulin and weight loss. Now, the vegan group experienced better fasting insulin and they lost more weight. Now, the problem with these two metrics is that the researchers did not list these as the original endpoints that they were testing for. LDL-C was what they were testing for. They were testing for LDL as the primary outcome measure. But fasting insulin and weight loss was not what they were testing for. And why is this important? Because when you start seeing these numbers and then you start reporting out on these, this is a direct sign of cherry picking. The reason that you have to report a primary outcome measure at the beginning of a study is to prevent cherry picking. The fact that they listed one, LDL-C, which they knew would go down because across the board, anytime you eat a plant-based diet, LDL does go down. They knew LDL was going to go down, so they tested for that. But they weren't entirely sure if weight loss would go down. They weren't sure if fasting insulin would go down, but they decided to report on it after the fact once they saw that it did work.
Okay, so this is very important for you guys to get. When you consume seed oils, which most of you who are hearing this hearing me, that seed oils are not good. So these people, but we know that if you consume seed oils, you will see LDL cholesterol go down a little bit. Okay, but we know the seed oils aren't good for you, but you will see that go down. Okay, and that was their original premise. That was the goal. And as he's stating here, the goal wasn't, hey, we're going to demonstrate with a hypothesis. We're going to demonstrate that when you go vegan, you lose more weight than if you eat meat. We're going to demonstrate the hypothesis. If you go vegan, you have a better fasting insulin. That was not the premise up front. That was not the hypothesis. The only hypothesis was to demonstrate that if you go vegan, even as an identical twin, your LDLs will go down. But once they saw across the board that people got certain favorable results, they were like, oh, it's not an original study, but let's add it now. Shady. I mean, it can't get any more shady. I mean, this is embarrassing. I mean, it really is. It is 100% embarrassing.
So that's a sign of cherry picking. Now, to give researchers a little bit of props, though, they did report that the vegan group ate 64% less vitamin B12 than the omnivorous group. Now, this is not good. We want more vitamins and minerals. And it's very well known that plant-based dieters, vegans, vegetarians, chronically and overall eat less vitamin B12, zinc, choline, carnosine, carnitine, heme iron, nutrients that are widely available in animal foods that you can really only find in animal foods or intentional synthetic supplementation. Now, in spite of all this, the Stanford Press released this study with a headline that says, "Twin research indicates that a vegan diet improves cardiovascular health." Hey guys, so as I'm editing this video, I realized that there's two things that I forgot to include that I really wanted to make sure I got in this video. These two things, I believe, really help to give you a more well-rounded perspective of understanding not only this study, but this documentary as well. And so what these are, the first thing is the LDL conversation. Now, LDL-C is the primary outcome metric that the researchers were using to determine whether a vegan diet was healthier than an omnivorous diet. You take LDL away from this study, and it has no legs whatsoever to stand on. Now, like I had previously mentioned, there was 22 sets of twins, and a majority of these twins were female. And what they were looking for was if their LDL-C would lower at the end of this study. And they knew it would because all plant-based diets lower LDL across the board. The problem with this is that LDL-C is not a significant risk factor for developing heart disease in women. Now, where's the science that shows this? Now, here's the thing. There's many different types of LDL. There's small, dense particles, there's VLDL, there's LP(a). There's so many different types of LDL molecules. This stands for low-density lipoprotein. This is a cholesterol carrier, so it's not directly cholesterol itself, but it carries cholesterol to and from the body. And LDL is what's known as your bad cholesterol, quote-unquote bad cholesterol. But there's different types of LDL. Some are good, and LDL in and of itself is a strong antioxidant. So we can't just blanket statement and say LDL is problematic. Now, LDL-C is what's believed to be causal or associated with heart disease, and conventional health experts want to lower this. So if LDL-C was the major cause of atherosclerosis and cardiovascular disease, people with the highest LDL-C, you would think, should have shorter lives than people with low values, right? Well, in a recent systematic review of 19 cohort studies with more than 68,000, this fills up an entire football stadium, more than 68,000 elderly people of aged 60 or older, the researchers found that the opposite was true. That the higher the LDL-C, the longer they lived. Because like I just mentioned, LDL is an antioxidant molecule and it has other functions within the body that's beneficial.
You know how good, I mean, you know how excited I am to hear someone actually share in social media the truth? This young man just shared with you guys the truth. The data is very clear. The lower your LDL, that your doctor is telling you is bad if it's high, you have increased mortality. That means you will die before someone who has a higher LDL. So let's just say that you're taking a statin, a cholesterol statin, to lower your LDL. You're lowering your LDL to increase your mortality. I mean, like, this isn't entertaining what we're doing. This is for people who actually have it in them that want to sit and learn and listen. Not everybody can do that. Most people want to be excited. Hey, show me how to make a fat burning meal. Hey, show me this and show me that. We're talking about something that's really important. And the more you understand this, when you have a conversation with your physician, you can actually have a conversation instead of just sitting there like a deer in headlights and waiting on them to tell you what to do. There is no physician that is going to tell me what to do. I mean, and any physicians listening, don't take it the wrong way, get your ego out the way, but you don't know. You have been indoctrinated to just prescribe. Now, there are some physicians that are in this space, and we would understand each other. But a lot of you guys who are listening to this, you don't know. I mean, I watched one of my clients recently went and got a booster shot for COVID after being my client for a long time. I was like, I can't believe it. We know that certain vaccines that people take increase your risk for myocarditis and cancer. So why would, and he's a survivor of cancer, why would someone who's a survivor of cancer, after I've shared the real data, go and just still get enough? I mean, Lord, please help us. But not everybody's going to get this, you guys. Not everybody's going to get it. We're almost done. Let's keep it moving.
That's not enough. In the largest cohort study ever conducted, those with the highest LDL-C levels lived even longer than those on statin treatment. But the media won't tell you that. The media will definitely not tell you that high LDL levels caused longer lives than taking a drug. Now, to put the final nail in the coffin, in addition to those two studies, there have been numerous studies in Japanese women that have found that high LDL-C is not a significant risk factor for coronary heart disease mortality in women of any age. And for the men in this study, was LDL-C a problem to begin with? It's definitely not a problem for the women according to the science. But what does the science have to say for the men in this study? In a large American study, including more than 140,000 patients, that's 2 football fields. That's 2 stadiums. 140,000 patients with acute myocardial infarction, their LDL-C at the time of admission to the hospital was actually lower than normal. It was lower than normal levels. Yet they were still admitted with acute myocardial infarction. In another study with the same finding, the authors decided to lower the patient's LDL-C even more. It was already below normal, but yet they decided to continue to lower it even more. But at a follow-up 3 years later, total mortality among those with LDL-C below 105 milligrams a deciliter was twice as high compared to those with a higher LDL-C. And that's even after adjusting for confounding variables. So they were able to isolate this one component. So what this means is the more the doctors lowered LDL-C levels in these patients, in the 140,000 patients, the more they lowered it, the more the risk of death went up. They saw more death from their patients. But yet people are still going to see this headline. People are still going to watch this documentary and believe that the vegan diet was healthier than the omnivorous diet.
Okay, you guys, listen. If you're taking a statin and you're lowering your LDL, you're taking a statin. Maybe it's your husband. Maybe it's your friend. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's your mom. Maybe it's your dad. It's someone that maybe you care about. What he just shared is that if you're taking a statin and your LDL is lower, you are not going to live as long as you would if your LDL was higher. I'm just a messenger. I'm aware of these studies. When I talk to my clients, I'm like, I'm not concerned with your cholesterol. I'm really not. And most of my clients over the years, close to 29, 30 years of doing this, the ones who were taking statins, I've watched more of them die than the ones who didn't take statins and had high cholesterol. Actually, when I think about it, the ones who aren't taking statins and have higher cholesterol, they're all still alive. All of my clients who were taking statins, they've had, triple bypass. They've had nothing but problems. But still, these people will just keep taking statins and just keep on. It's like, Lord, how do we help people? And it's sad because the blind is leading the blind. Jeez.
So let's take a step back and look at this. The researchers made their conclusion that a vegan diet was healthier than an omnivorous diet based pretty much solely on that one metric, LDL. And it's not even a significant risk factor for the women in this study to begin with. Yet they still concluded this study by saying, quote, the healthy vegan diet led to improved cardiometabolic outcomes compared with a healthy omnivorous diet. Clinicians can consider this dietary approach as a healthy alternative for their patients. Even though lowering their LDL is meaningless, they also lowered their HDL, which is not good, which we know is a significant metric that we want to have high, and they raised triglycerides, which we want to lower. Now that brings me to the second point that I wanted to mention, and that's at the conclusion of this study, the researchers then asked all the twins, all 44 of the twins, will you continue to follow the diet that you're on? 21 of the 22 vegans said no, they will not continue to follow this diet by choice because their diet satisfactory score was low. They did not like the diet they were eating. Only one of them said they might continue to eat the diet. When you include animal products as a part of your diet, unprocessed red meat, eggs, unprocessed dairy like raw dairy, cheeses, kefirs, and yogurts, and things of that nature. When you're eating these animal foods as a part of a whole food diet, and you're not eating ultra-processed foods that were really just invented within the past 100 years, donuts, pizzas, and you're not eating your animal products with these foods, because typically the meat is eaten on a pizza as pepperoni. And this is what researchers call red meat. They call these things red meat, and this is how they classify that red meat is problematic because it's eaten as pepperoni, it's eaten as sausage on pizza, it's eaten as hot dogs and things like that. But this is not what a healthy omnivorous diet is. And if LDL-C goes up When you're eating a healthy omnivorous diet as a part of a whole food diet, the science shows that that is not problematic. And why would it be? We've been eating these foods for as long as humans have existed, and we've never had heart disease at epidemic proportions like we've had until the past 100 years when we started including modern day lifestyle factors like smoking, drinking excessively, high stress, sedentary behavior, and ultra processed foods. But when you start including these foods into your diet, you see rates of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, they skyrocket. So my message to you is, do not be fooled by these headlines. Don't be fooled by films, by documentaries that have an underlying agenda. Now, I tried to come into this conversation unbiasedly and looking at all angles of this research. But what I kept coming back to were these things that were hidden, these red flags that just weren't mentioned in the study, and these metrics that were cherry-picked, and LDLC that doesn't even matter in terms of lowering or raising it in the long term. Because this study only ran for 8 weeks, and you cannot paint a long-term health picture based off of 8 weeks. All they got was that they lowered fasting insulin, they lost a little bit more weight, they lowered their LDLC a little bit more, but we've already talked about that. And so I appreciate you guys for being here. Now, as I wrap up, I hope I was able to present to you a more well-rounded approach to this study. And if you're going to go out there and watch the documentary, You Are What You Eat, on January 1st, I hope you have a better view of what went into it, who funded it, what they maybe left out of the study, what they chose to include in the study, and things like that. So I hope I could present to you more well-rounded information, because there's a lot that went untold in this. And if we are just scrolling on social media or we are on Google and we see a headline that says a vegan diet is better than an omnivorous diet, and if our beliefs align with that, then we are more likely to believe that, or vice versa.
Well, there you have it, you guys. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. I mean, some people, I don't want to say anything that will offend anybody, because I'm just passionate about this. I want to help people. And when I see things like this documentary, Lisa, I feel like I'm watching a bully take advantage of people, because those who don't know what to look for, what to do, how to navigate around nutrition and health will watch something like this and they will fall prey to it. And that is absolutely horrible. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I agree. I really like that guy, Robert.
Yeah, he's good.
He's really good.
And I feel bad. You know what? I will post his name and his link, because I want to acknowledge him for the video. And I think he did he did a really good job.
He really did. I mean, I know what he was saying as truth, he was sharing information that we share, and it's sad with these documentaries, like you said, because when you don't know and you're hearing that, it sounds good, but you really have to look at the study yourself and understand what they're leaving out.
Right. And then when you're an accountant or you're a doctor or you're a secretary or you work in the admin area, you ain't got time to be researching studies. I mean, I get it. I mean, if you're really over the top passionate about it, but most people got kids, they wake up, they're rushing to work, they got a whole job they got to do. You know what I mean? That's where you and I come in, right? We need to be in a position where we can do videos like this. And unfortunately, a lot of people are watching that documentary. Like I said earlier, one of this new lady who I met recently, we're getting ready to do some work with. She's doing a lot of big things with churches and around running. And I'll share more with you guys, but she's got one of the biggest running operations in America. And it's all about, helping people become more active. And when she saw the Diet Free Life methodology and what we teach as far as nutrition, I mean, she got stuck on the fact. She's like, wait a minute, this is amazing. I can't believe I'm just now learning this. This is awesome. And in our conversation earlier today, she brought up this documentary series. And she was telling me how these doctors she knows are like, man, we got to get educated. We got to quit eating meat. They watched the documentary, and doctors who understand what an abstract is, who has a pretty decent idea about what research is, didn't research nothing. They saw it, just believed it, and now are running with it. And that's why we need to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, that blows my mind, right? Like I tend to think of that. I'm like, you know what? I don't have a doctorate, but how can a doctor not, I mean, and it goes back to, first do no harm. Like I always go back to that, because how can somebody with like that doctorate with that name and not do like their due diligence with that before recommending that? Like, wouldn't they want to know? Like, wouldn't they want to see that study? I don't understand it.
Well, they would, but they don't know. Like when you're a doctor, you're not trained on becoming a critical thinker. When you become a physician, if you're trained on anything, you're indoctrinated to follow the rules, right? Because they don't want people who are critical thinkers, right? So when COVID came out, critical thinkers, like I remember looking at a study, and in this survey or study, whatever it was, they surveyed people to find out who got COVID, the vaccination, who didn't. And the majority of people who did not choose to get vaccinated were people who had a college education of PhD or higher. And a lot of the other ones were thrown into like they're critical thinkers. I'm a critical thinker, and I always have been, PhD or not, but that's just who I am. I believe you're a critical thinker. We don't just go with the flow. We don't just assume what you tell me is accurate. I am going to do my own due diligence. And that's where doctors, they don't have that. Because if they did, Lisa, they would be more like the meaning of the word doctor, which means being a teacher. And anyone who's hearing us have this conversation can say yay or nay to the fact that I believe their doctor is not teaching them. And if someone has a doctor and they can go, yep, my doctor teaches me every time I go in for my checkup and all that, he teaches me something. Can someone just please, like, who's catching it live or the replay, like let us know that you have a doctor, your physician, that teaches you every time?
I can say that.
Your doctor teaches you every time?
Yeah, my doctor and my son's pediatrician teaches me every single time.
Okay.
I'm very lucky.
Okay, no, I'm really interested in that. So what's the last thing your doctor taught you when you went in?
Well, I haven't been in a while.
Okay.
But she's always taught me. I mean, I've been seeing her since I'm 17. Well, she's interested in diet-free life in her office.
Okay. Well, I mean, my gut would tell me that you have more to teach her than she has to teach you. That's what my gut would say.
Yeah, no, but she also she'll do her Facebook lives too. And I learned from watching even some of her Facebook lives. Like she was talking about insulin resistance. But she's a DO, not an MD. And I think there's a little bit of a difference there, but she looks to get to the root of issues instead of just she doesn't go to the medicine first. She focuses more on diet, nutrition, and getting to the root of it. So I'm very lucky.
Okay. Well, hey, compliments to you. Compliments to you. So let me give a quick shout out, and then we're gonna go over to Telegram. Are you home yet?
Yes, I am.
All right. All right. So Lisa Richards says, no, my doctor doesn't teach me anything, just wants to prescribe drugs and I won't fill them. See, that's what I think. Linda says, actually, I teach my doctor. LOL. I agree. Cecilia, what's up? Glad you made it. Susie Lopez, I hated that they said in the documentary, we want so much cheese now and we're unhealthy, but then said most of that was on pizza. Well, no, duh. It's the excess carbs, not the cheese. Okay. Susan, what's up, Susan? She says, as a nurse, I see so many healthcare professionals trying the vegan lifestyle and they almost always leave it as they are starving to death and feeling like crap. Non-scientific observations, of course, but wow. I mean, this is crazy. Sandy says they also didn't highlight that the vegan diet lost more skeletal muscle. I noticed that one, and that's true. Even though that wasn't part of the original hypothesis. You know what I mean? Like, this is just so crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, let's go over to Telegram and have a little conversation. You guys, hey, there's a link provided if you want to come to Telegram and you want to really share your views or you want to have a conversation with Lisa and I, we would love to have you. Lisa, any recommendations you can tell them on how to come join us at Telegram?
Yeah, just click the link, sign up if you are not signed up already. And then you'll see on the top of the screen, it'll say a join button. We'll be over there. You'll press that join button and we'll be in there having a conversation. So we'd love to have you join us.
Okay, well, if you guys have time, you could be washing the dishes. You could be taking off your makeup. You could be like getting your kids' food ready for tomorrow while you're listening to this conversation. So it's like a radio, right? Instead of just doing nothing,
That's
you know
a
what
good
I mean?
point. You're not on video, so there's no video, unless you wanted to. But
just click and
it's
listen.
just you can just listen. It's like the old conference lines. You just get in and listen, and if you want to join in, you can join in.
It's like old school, everybody. All right, Lisa, I'll see you over
All
there.
right,
I'm on my way. You ready?
All right, I'm
All right,
ready.
you
See you
guys.
there.
See you over there, you guys. Come on.